Good afternoon, good evening. This is Frank Deneen, and welcome to the next edition of the Pitch and Putt event that we have. And I'm joined this evening by Derek Baker, who will be known to some of you as the bookmaker that's involved in the national match play and national stroke play over the last number of years. Good evening, Derek.
Frank, how are you?
I hope you're keeping safe in these terrible times.
Yeah, they're testing times for everybody, but sure, we all have to do it. Unfortunately, it's tough. I'd be normally on the go 18 hours out of the day, and I'm down to zero now, but sure, everybody has to do the same thing, so we're all in the same boat. We're in it together. Everybody
has to try to survive as best they can. Derek, I am aware that talking about bookmaking and talking about bookmaking within Pitch and Putt is contentious for some. It's not everybody's cup of tea. We shouldn't be promoting betting for the general populace if we can at all, but it's something that people are interested in, and it adds a little bit of spice to the events.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was asked, Frank, a couple of years ago to come along and would I be interested in doing it. And I said I'd go along and see what it was like. And I enjoyed it so much that I said I'd do it again. Now, it's run on bank holiday weekends for me, which are not ideal because I'd normally be racing for 2 or 3 of those days. But I take it like a holiday. It's a sabbatical for me, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the banter with the lads. I enjoy the bit of crack that's there. I enjoy the bit of walking. So, yeah, I like it. As far as the gambling goes, it's fairly low-key in general, but it gives people an interest. And for, guys doing their accumulators for a £5 or a £10 or 20 quid, they can go out and watch 3 or 4 matches and add a little spice to it. And they're the customers we're looking for as such,
Yeah, and like I say, obviously problem gambling is a huge issue. Dunlewy.com is a site for anybody who has problems with it. I just wanted to mention that up front, but just to say to you that I personally think that it brings an impetus to the games that are interesting and adds a little bit of spice to it. Also, when the prices go up or when people look at the prices, it always adds bones of issues, or people can talk about them. Talk to me about the prices. How do you come about the prices for? Well, let's talk about the long list first, and something like the national match play. Where obviously you've got some spotters in the game as well, who'll be able to give you some idea of what's going on. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I mean, I would have known absolutely nothing about Pitch and Putt the first year I'd done it, which I think was up in Sea Point. And I went up blind.
I actually have Sea Point on the video in the background while we're talking. I thought it was appropriate to do it.
Okay. So, yeah. Well, that's the first one I'd done, and I didn't know any of the players as such. I knew a couple of lads who went to Pitch and Putt, and I found out when I got there actually that I knew 3 or 4 of the top lads who play. So, I asked advice from a couple of lads. I tried to price it up. In fairness, I probably, on the long list of book, the main book was probably betting to 240%, which is a lot, but realistically you're probably betting to 125 because there's only 10 or 12 players maximum that money comes for, and the others are absolutely friendless in the market, really no matter what price you went,
Betting to 200 means you make a lot of money on that book potentially. Is that how it works?
Well, if you were betting to 200%, if you got the same liability for every single player, you would make a 100% profit out of it. But that would never be the case. As I said, out of the 64 runners in it, you're probably going to get 12 people that are backed, and the rest will be friendless, So your actual book will be about 125.
Is it fair to say that there are only 12 people can win the national match play, in your opinion?
Well, from what I've seen over the 3 years, the winners were all ones that were backed, let's say, and were all prominent figures in it. There was no sort of shock result. Last year in the second one, which was the stroke play, there was 2 or 3 lads now who were big prices, showed prominence and finished, third and fourth and done well. But at the end of the day, the cream always seems to rise to the top,
Talk to me about the you. We had this conversation a number of years ago about pricing the first round matches in the national match play and how difficult that is to do and how difficult it is to for you because you're in essence putting your neck on the line, really, aren't you?
I am. But I mean, in fairness, like you're never going to have huge liabilities in it. There's no real big hitters in the pitch and putt. But I mean, there was one or two complaints about pricing last year, and if they were talking about the main book, if you just look at the 240% that we were betting to, I could understand them having a grievance to it. But that's not the true reflection of what the book is. And the other thing about the long knowledge book is, I don't want to insult somebody and put down 1,000 to 1, which is probably what the price they are. But I normally limit it off at 100, not to make it too bad. As the match play goes in the individual matches, I mean, the pricing on that is fairly competitive. In general, I bet to about 110, which is very similar to what the main shop exchanges and the main shop sites, Powers, Ladbrokes, Boyles, that's roughly what they would bet to a match bets. And you have to remember that they have odds compilers looking at all these sports every single week, and their turnover is massive, so it's fine for them. My average turnover on a match might be €200, and there'll be other matches you wouldn't get anything. And then all of a sudden, you'd have one match where I've probably priced it up slightly wrong, and have a liability of £600 or £700, and if that wins, I've no chance of getting it back for the whole day.
That sounds like a lot to me. €700, €600 on one match. It you're taking chances on some of these, especially for people that you wouldn't know or wouldn't have good knowledge of.
Well, I assure you, Frank, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it, because it's definitely not something that I think I'm going to make a huge profit out of over the next couple of years. But I've actually started to play a bit of pitch and putt in the last couple of weeks before the virus thing broke out. So I'm actually liking it. I enjoy playing it. I enjoy the people that are at it. I like the bit of fun. And when somebody gets a touch and gets an accumulator up, or has a bet on the winner, it's great to be there and be part of it.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about, we've had, again, this conversation in private, but there's players at this stage even that you like, that you will put in as short odds. You say to me, for example, Frank, you're playing against John Walsh. You know both the players at this stage. You know the personalities, and who do you like as a player?
Well, I'm sorry, Frank, you're the outsider on that one, if you me.
100 to 1, yeah.
No, there's certain players that I've seen, and I like the way they stand up when the pressure is on them. In latter years, you have, from what I've seen, you have Damien Fleming, you have Brian Delaney, you have Ray Murphy, of course, you have John Cal. You've guys like that are always going to be in and around the scoring, and then you've other guys that are just below them. I mean, when I start looking at it, first of all, I was sure you were going to have 3 or 4 guys that were way above the rest, and it's not that way at all. You have maybe an elite bunch of 5 or 6, and only 1 or 2 shots behind them are another 10 who on any given day can perform.
I know you like Shane Murphy.
I do. Shane, I think it was Shane that won up in Sea Point, and the first time I was there.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, that's the only tournament I've won at over the 3 years that I'm going. So, well done, Shane.
Dale Donoghue was a fine player, and he made the final that year as pretty much an unknown outsider in the whole thing. So the outsiders can come true.
100%. And you'll find, as I said, over 2 days, any given player, probably in the top 40, could go and win it. But it's unlikely going to be happening too often, Frank. It's like horse racing, where when you come to the grade 1 or the grade 2 races, it's normally the cream that rises to the top.
Talk to me about how difficult it is to do the intermediate and the juniors in the stroke play.
it's the juniors are nearly impossible, and even the intermediate is tough. I mean, you have a guy. All I can go on in the intermediates. I ask a few of the intermediate players that I know, and in fairness to them, they would tell me the truth of what they think. And then you're trying to look at scores that they've had in opens for the year, and unfortunately, in the intermediate and the juniors, it's much harder to call because you'll get a guy all of a sudden shooting 10 under par more than he normally would, so it's very hard to price it up. Now, listen, when we get down to the second day in the intermediates, we try and do something. We try and price both of them up, but in those books, we are betting to a high percentage because we're putting our neck out in the line, and I'm not going to take big bets in it either. Like to win 400 or 500 quid to a guy, that's as much as I want,
I'll give you a scenario. The Irish match play this year is intended to be in Larkspur Park on the June Bank Holiday weekend. Now, obviously, that's completely up in the air and we don't know when or if it's going to be on. But a course like Larkspur Park would have what I would describe as specialist players that would walk onto the course. I'll give you an example. A guy by the name of Paul O'Brien. I think you know Paul O'Brien from Tipperary courses.
From Dublin.
No, Paul O'Brien is from Tipperary. Paul O'Brien is from Tipperary, but he would be. I'd be very afraid of Paul O'Brien walking onto a course in Larkspur. I'd be afraid of him in most places, but especially in a local course like that. How do you guard against the springers from the local courses catching you?
Well, you sort of know when you're pricing up your tournaments where the tournament is. You pick out the local players. You try and pick out the best or the top two local players on that course or in that area, and generally you'll always get a few quid for them because you'll have the locals having their fivers and tenors on those type of guys. So, like, we'll put the price in. If I put them in at 33 to 1 and I see money coming for them, the price will just shorten down.
And it'll come down very quickly.
It can come down quickly because, like, this is more of a fun thing than a business thing, and like we have brought professionalism along to this in as far as that it's a printed out ticket. The total value of what they're getting back is on their ticket. There can be no ambiguity to it because the name of the player is on it. So it's it's a fun thing. I have to say I enjoy the 2 days or the 3 days, whichever it may be, and if the weather's good, get a bit of sunshine, a bit of walking, and everybody is happy. I think the lads in general are happy enough with how it's going. I mean, there's very few bets get refused. Everybody that has a bet that wins gets paid. Guys even have the facility. If they ring me up and they can't make it down there early in the morning or whatever, they can ring me the night before, have the bet, or I'll do their ticket for them that night, and when they come the next day they can collect their winnings or pay, and everybody is honourable. So we've had no problems up to now.
Yeah, like I said, I do think it adds something to it. I'm going to ask you a question. Why don't you price up the ladies?
Well, I do price up the ladies, Frank. The problem you have with the ladies is you have, at the minute, you have two girls, Chrissy and the lady from Dublin, Gerard Ward. They just seem to be miles ahead of the others. Now, I know there was a result.
Mary Murray in Rock Lodge.
Yes, in Rock Lodge. I know that did happen. But in general, these two are just different class at the minute from any of the scores that I can see.
Yeah. And so, the other thing I'd say to you is that pitch and putt, you do have the players at the very top, and they're there consistently. The likes of J.R. Krangle, the likes of the top players, Irish champions who've been there and who've done it, and that's there to see. But there are guys that come out of the blue that are playing well for a certain period of time and can come at it again, and you could get caught with some of these.
Oh, listen, 100%. There's a couple of lads that when they have a bet with me, I respect their opinion. When they come on to me and have 25 each way and a 50 to 1 or a 66 to 1, I don't even have to look it up. I shorten them straight away because I know these guys are far from frivolous with their money. So I know whatever they back, he's not a dead one. He'd be there or thereabouts. He'd be in the top 10 or 12.
And again, you're obviously from Dublin but based in Cork. You do have people from up the country who do give you the eye now and again, yeah?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Like the whole thing is to try and keep the liabilities down. Like, I have no problem losing, as I said, 200 or 300 quid in a match. It's not the end of the world. If I go horse racing, I stand horses for 2,000 quid or whatever. But I know every horse that's running. I can price up the market. I have my own opinion on it, so I have no problem. So by and large on this, I'm relying on other people's opinions that I respect, and I normally will go with what they tell me, and that's how I'll price it up. And then the more I get to watch fellas playing, the more I want to side with guys. I want certain guys on my side, and I want to be against other guys, depending on the odds.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit technical now, right? If I'm playing John Walsh, let's say, right? It seems to me that if you have me at 5-1 in that match and John Walsh at 1-10, that they might not, even though that I might be a 20-1 shot in that match, right? Or I might be 100-1 in that match. Is there such a huge gap that is obvious, or how does that work?
Well, it depends. Like, if I had to price that match up in the morning, Frank, I would make John Walsh a 3-on favourite and you be 7-4. And by doing that, I'm betting to 110%, which is, what it should mean is I get a 10% profit if I got level stakes on that match, but that'll never happen. I'll never get level stakes on it, or very seldom will I get level stakes on it. So in that match, I would be siding with John Walsh, so I'll be hoping guys will be backing you at 7-4, and if they weren't biting at the 7-4, I might even go 2 to try and get it if that's the way I wanted it.
So if
there's another match...
Yeah, but you take a position and you hope that the guys back the outsider. Is that how it works?
No, not really. Sometimes there's matches where I'd fancy the outsider and I hope the guy's coming back the favourite.
Okay.
And they might think they're getting value. Like in general, I price up the matches in the match play at roughly 110. Like if there's two of them and they're of equal chance, I'll go 5-4 on both of them, which is betting to 111%. It's given me a very small edge. It's given me an 11% margin, but like if a guy comes in and wants 500 to win 4, I have to bet him with a liability of 400, and I find the pitch and putt guys who are going every single week will know a lot more about players than I will. A guy is not putting well, a guy is after hurting his wrist, a guy left his club behind. I get to know these things, but I do after they've backed it, so
which is not very good.
They will get to hear these things before I would. But listen, it's all fun and banter, and I have to say, when I go out to the course, there's always a laugh and a joke and a bit of fun, so there's never a problem.
There is. And Derek, look, I just wanted to say thanks a million for joining me. I think I'd probably back John Walsh myself in a match against me, but every given day is a good day. I hope we get back out playing. I'd love to see you at the match play and the stroke plays whenever they come about. I think it adds something to it. Of course, gambling is a serious issue in society, and we have to be aware of that too. But it is something that adds professionalism, and you're not making thousands out of it. People who think that the bookie never loses doesn't know you. So, well. The easiest way to let you know this, Frank, one of the major firms priced it up one year and stopped it after the first year. So that'll tell you how much money has to be made at it. There is very little money to be made at it. But as I said, I treat it as a bit of fun and banter, and once it doesn't cost me too much, I have no problem with it. And as I say, the pitch and putt committee and all are nothing but courteous and nice to me, and if I can help them in any single way, I certainly would. I certainly enjoy it, and I'm starting to like the game even playing it. And we'd encourage anybody who does like a little flutter and who goes to the races to keep an eye out for Derek. He's at all the race meetings throughout the country, and it's better to throw a few bob to someone that we know than to throw to someone that we don't, And I'd like to thank him very much for joining me, and I hope this was of interest to some people within the game. And in these horrible times, a little bit of interest or a little bit of banter does no harm. And I'd like to thank you very much, Derek.
Thank you, Frank, and stay safe, everybody, and hope to see you as soon as possible this year for the Nationals.
Thank you very much. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye now.